Over the Knicks' most recent win streak, Josh Hart has proven to be one of the most important players on the team, as well as one of the more underrated pieces in all the NBA. And despite all the big acquisitions the team has made over the past few seasons, Josh Hart has proven to be the difference between a second-round exit and a championship. Hit that rock. Before we get started, make sure to hit the like button, hit the dark notification bell to subscribe to the channel and get every notification for every video I put out. Also, when the video is done, please leave a comment. Speak to me. I speak back. I appreciate you, Gmo, Legion Knicks. Now, when you look at this recent win streak by the New York Knicks, Josh Hart has definitely left his imprint across all these wins. You had the 39-point outburst by Jalen Brunson versus the Pelicans. You had the 55-point performance by Jalen Brunson against the Wizards. You had the 41-point game from Mikal Bridges against the Spurs. And throughout all these fantastic performances, it seems as if Josh Hart has been involved as a major catalyst to help bridge the Knicks to a win. One could argue that Josh Hart is probably having one of the best seasons of his career in total. Josh Hart, the season is averaging 14.5 points a game on 57.3% shooting from the field, a career high, 38% from the three-point line, which is second best in his career, along with 1.8 offensive rebounds, the second best of his career, 7 defensive rebounds a game, the best of his career, 5.7 assists a game, the best of his career, and 1.5 steals a game, the best of his career. A true shooting percentage of 67.5%, which is the best of his career when you take out the partial year that he had with the New York Knicks when he first came over in a trade with the Blazers. And just to clarify, these stats do not include the games against the OKC Thunder as well as the Chicago Bulls. Even when looking at his stats, it really doesn't tell the true impact on this team as a kingmaker, as a guy who's a connector to the talents such as Jalen Brunson, Karl Towns, OG Anunoby, Mikal Bridges. Now, when you think about a connector, you think about a guy who's essentially bridging a gap from a team's total production in terms of stats and points and whatnot to that team's win. Now, you're talking about a guy who's typically a mix of clutch and hustle that may not show up on the scoring stats each and every night, but he's definitely one of the major reasons as to why a team is performing and winning the way they are. Now, we think about some of the connectors of yesteryear. We're talking about guys like the Boris Diaws, the Lamar Odoms, the Scottie Pippens, guys like Bruce Bowen, guys like Shane Battier, Horace Grant. And mind you, all those guys are championship level winning connectors. And in current times, we're talking about guys like Kyle Anderson, Draymond Green, Derek White, Georges Niang, and even guys like Dyson Daniels, and even my son out in Sacramento, Keon Ellis. Now, what Josh Hart is doing this season is terribly different than what we saw when he first came to the Knicks. Now, granted, we still sort of rebounding in the hustle and the passing, but it's almost like he did some of that passing facilitating to a fault because he didn't want to shoot the ball. He did a lot of the rebound and say, hey, I'm going to produce because I'm not scoring. Now, granted, he's always been that type of hustle player, but it almost seemed like he never wanted to be involved in the big moment. I remember back when he first came to the Knicks and we played the Miami Heat and the ball would come to him and Brunson would be double team hounded and Randall's hounded on defense even though he's hobbled. RJ would be hounded. Your man Josh Hart wanted nothing to do with any of the scoring responsibilities or even some of the playmaking duties that we probably needed to take some of the pressure off of Brunson on the ball. Now, this season, whenever Jalen Brunson has needed a breather because guys are hounding him on the ball, playing him full court, it's been Josh Hart who's been the secondary playmaker on the team, finding Jalen Brunson off the ball once he comes over the half-court line. Now, about 40% of Josh Hart's passes overall go to Jalen Brunson this season. He's always shooting around like 43% from the field. Jalen Brunson, that is, off of all passes from Josh Hart, around 36% from three. But that's a major difference from what we've seen over the past few seasons. Now, the first season that Josh Hart was here, again, not many games because he got traded from the Blazers. I think like 3.7% of his total passes were going to Jalen Brunson. Last year, around 30.9%. And last year, Jalen Brunson shot fairly well. I believe he shot around 46.9% from the field off of all passes from Josh Hart, 41.8% from the three-point line. Jalen Brunson has from passes from Josh Hart. But again, this season, the frequency is going up, and I think that those numbers should improve as Josh Hart continues to be more comfortable as a secondary playmaker off of Jalen Brunson. And when the Knicks need to cut a big deficit and guys like OG, Macau, or even Jalen Brunson are being heavily guarded and Josh is wide open, Josh has been aggressive in taking those wide open shots. That's why he's putting up his best overall three-point shooting numbers this season, around 39%, shooting some of his best three-point shots off of catch and shoots this season, around 37%. Or 38%, shooting some of his best three-point shots when he's wide open, when a defender is 4 to 6 feet away from him, around 40%. And when he's wide open, the defender is 6+ feet away from him at 39.2%. But the Knicks need some transition points or some easy buckets in transition on the fast breaks, after a missed shot, after a turnover. Who's typically at the forefront in terms of pushing the tempo, pushing the pace in those situations? Who's the guy who's finishing, who's making those key passes to the guys on the flank, or the guy cutting or moving or running alongside Josh Hart in these fast breaks? It's Josh Hart. It's one of the reasons why the Knicks have the highest points per possession in all the NBA with regards to transition points. And we talk about the Knicks needing a big save, a big rebound on the defensive end, especially Josh Hart has been at the forefront. When you look at all the guards in the NBA, he's at the elite of the elite. He's second in total rebounds out of all guards. He's first in rebound chances. He's second in contested rebounds a game at 2.7, and he's first in contested defensive rebounds out of all guards in the NBA. Looking over the most recent win streak, I actually wanted to go back and include 2 more games to reach back into the Pistons game the Knicks lost, where you start to see Josh Hart's production kind of ramp up, his impact kind of ramp up as well too. So that's 11 games, and over those 11 games, Josh Hart is averaging 15.4 points a game, 52.4% shooting from the field, 37.8% from three, 9.3 rebounds a game, 5.9 assists, 1.6 steals, and a true shooting of 62.8% for proper context. And when you look deeper into those games, especially in the fourth quarter, so-called clutch situations for the New York Knicks, when you look at all the NBA in that time span, Josh Hart actually had the 3rd highest plus minus in all the league in those fourth quarters of those games at 52. And was it because of Josh Hart scoring? No, he was 38 in the league in scoring at the time. But when you look at other statistics, he was 13th in rebounds as well as 2nd in steals. And when you look deeper into the games, the actual film itself, you start to see the impact in the 3-point win versus the Spurs on Christmas Day. The game where Mikal Bridges scored 41 points compared to Wembanyama's 42. I counted 6 clutch plays that essentially won the game from Josh Hart, including 4 rebounds, with 1 being a putback and 2 in the last possession of the game, a 3-pointer to make a 2-point game in the fourth quarter, and a major deflection / steal on a Jeremy Sochan alley-oop after Sochan got hot with a 3-pointer and a layup before that. In the Magic game where Jalen Suggs almost willed Orlando to a win without Franz Wagner or Paulo Banchero, Josh Hart had 4 plays in the fourth quarter to help keep the lead for the New York Knicks. People may forget that Cat also had foul trouble similar to Jalen Suggs, and it was Josh who destroyed any hope the Magic had in trying to make a late run with clutch rebounding, 3-point shooting, and 1 finish, and his offensive rebound and putback. Against the Pelicans, when the Knicks were down by 12 points in the third quarter, it was Josh Hart's playmaking that was the catalyst to 6 of Brunson's 13 points. And he was involved in 16 points near the end of the quarter, using transition to exploit the Pelicans' defense, playing secondary playmaker to Brunson, and getting key blocks on defense. Josh Hart's production doesn't come up as shiny when discussing Jalen Brunson's 39 points, but he was the ink that wrote the story as to why the Knicks made that comeback versus the Pelicans. And we've all seen the Knicks over the years. A 12-point lead ain't nothing close to safe for New York. Now we look at the plus minuses for Josh Hart this season at 6.3. Now this takes out the OKC and the Bulls game, and you see some of the plus minuses for guys who are getting paid higher than him. You have to call him underrated. We're talking about guys like RJ Barrett, Tobias Harris, Jonathan Isaacs, Terry Rozier, Kyle Kuzma, Bruce Brown, Draymond Green, DeMar DeRozan, Jaden McDaniels, Brook Lopez, Aaron Gordon, KCP, Cameron Johnson, Malcolm Brogdon, Clint Capella, Dylan Brooks, DeAndre Hunter, Lonzo Ball, Marcus Smart, Nikola Vucevic, Miles Turner, Jurka Pertler, Duncan Robinson, Norman Powell, Keldon Johnson, D'Angelo Russell, and Colin Sexton. Now, for whatever reason, Josh Hart stepped up in confidence, in comfort in the system. Tom Thibodeau, playing major minutes for Tom Thibodeau. A guy who's relentless on both ends as much as he can be. Always filling the gaps in terms of when we need a big shot. And Jalen Brunson, everybody else is guarded. Josh is now taking those shots. Josh is attacking the basket. Josh is going up to deflect alley-oop in close games. Josh is going out for those long rebounds. Josh is playmaking alongside Jalen Brunson when Jalen Brunson is getting hounded full court. Josh is doing everything to help fill the blanks to lead the team's production to wins. One of the most underrated players in the league, one of the most underrated playmakers and connectors in the league, and he's the reason why the Knicks are at the position they are now in the Eastern Conference. A guy who's been largely regarded back in the day when we first came as an overpay, doesn't score enough, doesn't do enough on the winning end, and yet here we are largely because of Josh Hart's play. But let me know your thoughts. Is Josh Hart one of the most underrated playmakers in the league? Am I wrong in my assessment? Where you put him in terms of the totem pole for the New York Knicks? Can you give me 5 more underrated playmakers, connectors in the league better than Josh Hart? Let me know in the comments. Your boy Gmo leads your Knicks. Peace, Lou. God bless. I'll see you guys on the next one.